While South Carolinians are coming together, there remains a passionate debate over the Confederate flag that continues to fly over the government buildings across the state and right there in Charleston. So is it heritage or is it hate? Just a few hours ago, Mitt Romney tweeted that the flag should be taken down. Remove it now to honor Charleston victims, he wrote. And on the Today Show this morning, NAACP President Cornell Williams Brooks weighed in.
It is time to bring that flag down, to retire it, to put it in its ignoble grave, because it does not represent the majority of South Carolinians or all of South Carolinians, and it certainly doesn't represent all of America.
The public, though, seems more divided. An NBC News poll finds that 49% see the Confederate flag as a symbol of Southern pride, while the other 49% see it as a symbol of racism. Joining me now is Jason Johnson, professor of political science at Hiram College, and Joel Sawyer, former executive director of the South Carolina Republican Party. Gentlemen, welcome to you both. And Jason, I'm going to ask you first this question. Is it possible to have regional pride without being proud of all the history of that region?
Yeah, of course it's possible, but it's also possible that somebody can murder a bunch of people and be mentally ill and still be a racist. I think the problem that we often have in this discussion of the flag is everyone wants to focus on one part of the symbolism instead of just being honest. This is the flag of a former enemy of the United States that was based on the abuse and death of a certain kind of people. There's no place for that in modern political discourse. Never has been.
And Joel, you just heard from Mitt Romney. So what is the argument for keeping the flag? What's the point of it if so many people fear it and are offended by it? And by our latest poll, fully half of the people feel that way.
Yeah, I don't think that there is a compelling argument for it. I mean, I've long said it should come down. I don't think it has any place in front of a government building displayed prominently at the State House. Just one slight correction I would make to something you said earlier. It is not on top of any government building. It's in front. But that's still too much for me. I mean, I think that this is a divisive symbol. I think it needs to go away.
So do you think that this may be enough to compel Governor Haley to have this conversation?
You know, it's quite possible. I mean, you know, unfortunately, it's not just up to Governor Haley. It's up to the entire legislature. And when the flag was removed in 2000 to its place now, there was a 2/3 vote mechanism written into its current display area. So basically, it cannot even be removed or taken to half staff or anything like that, absent a 2/3 vote of the legislature. It's pretty crazy. And you know, absent a ladder and a pair of scissors, it's not going to come down without legislative action.
Yeah. Jason, former Congressman from Georgia Ben Jones, who's on MSNBC this morning, he argued that slavery is the American sin, not just the Southern sin, and that the Stars and Stripes also flew over slave-owning land. What's your response to that?
Well, it's true, and it's history. But the important thing for me, and I think this is why I say we always have to bring in politics when it comes to these tragedies, is even if the flag got removed tomorrow, that's not going to bring Clem Pinckney back, and that's not going to bring back Walter Scott, and that's not going to provide health care. That's not going to stop voter ID laws from being promoted. It's not going to stop Jeb Bush from claiming he wants to run for president, but at the same time saying that he favors voter ID laws and doesn't want to admit that this was a racist attack. I think sometimes we can focus too much on something symbolic and not say there are structural, institutional, and policy things that need to change here. And while removing the flag may be one small step, it's not bringing back anybody's lives. There's a lot more work to do than just this.
You know, Joel, specifically getting to the shooting, we hear a lot of talk about gun reforms and mental health reforms, but not a lot of politicians want to talk about race. And there are witnesses from this terrible event who claim that the alleged shooter, Dylan Roof, made these specific racial remarks to the victims. He has been seen wearing white supremacist insignia on his clothing. Is the real issue being ignored?
I mean, I don't know that it's being ignored at all. I mean, I think that there is certainly a conversation starting, you know, maybe even a long overdue conversation about race and the role that it continues to play in South Carolina, particularly in tragedies like this. So, you know, I don't know that it's being ignored. I think that people are talking about it, and hopefully it's a conversation that'll continue.
But it's a difficult issue, Jason. As you know, there are no easy policy answers. So what can really be done?
Well, first we have to all, and Alex, I think you're doing a good job of this. I think lots of people are doing a good job. First, we have to hold our political leaders accountable. If you can get mad at President Obama and Hillary Clinton for not calling Benghazi terrorism, then we can hold current candidates accountable for not calling this terrorism and not calling this racism. And then on top of that, we have to look at the antecedents to these kinds of policies. We can have disagreements as to what is and is not racism, but what we can look at is the motivation behind voter ID laws. What we can look at is the motivation behind segregation policies. These are things that we can actually address, whether or not we agree on what the roots of these things are. And that's what needs to be fixed now. The discussions of the symbolic things, we've got time for that, but there's policies on the ground that can be changed.
Joel, how confident are you that a tragedy like this can become a turning point for race relations throughout the country? Can this finally be it?
I wish I could say that I was confident. It's an opportunity, and it's a matter of whether or not, you know, Americans are going to take advantage of that opportunity to really make it a turning point.
All right. Well, guys, clearly it's the beginning of a long conversation, one that we've been having, we'll continue to do. And Jason and Joel, we'll have you both back. Do it again. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Al.
All right. Thank you.